Hey guys, Alex here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about another one of my primary carry guns in my day-to-day CCW rotation, and that's going to be the P365. I guess this is technically the X version in 9mm. So I think the P365 is a great gun. If I'm carrying big, this is big as I carry. If I want a 9mm, this is the gun I'm carrying. I think I mentioned in a previous video that I was been particular about the Bodyguard 2.0 here recently, but if I want a little more gun than that and a little bit more capable of a round, I'm carrying my 365. If I go out of town or if I'm going to a bad area, whatever, this is what I carry, and this is about as big of a gun as I'm willing to carry. Back in the day, before I got into sort of the competition shooting world, I mentioned, I followed a lot of the hot trends at the time, and I remember being in college when the original Shield came out, the single stack Shield. And at that time I thought, that's so dumb, having a little tiny slim gun. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Why would you carry that when you could carry a Glock 19 with 16 rounds, whatever. And then that gun took off and sold an unbelievable amount. But fast forward, I got away from carrying those big guns. And I think this size gun, the P365, the Shield Plus, other guns sort of in this size range, is like the perfect compromise between concealability and like shootability. I've shot this gun a lot in competition and in practice. And this gun doesn't shoot as well as something like a Glock 19 does, but it shoots pretty good for what it is. It conceals great, and it's got a lot of capability in a really tiny platform. And when Sig sort of came up with that stack and a half magazine, I mean, that significantly changed the concealed carry world. So I think this is a great gun with a great balance between the shootability and carryability. I can carry this all day and it doesn't bother me too much. Bending and stooping, it does poke a little bit. But I think it's a great compromise, and you've got a lot of capability in that tiny package. But this is about as big as I want to get now. I am interested in trying the macros that have that 17 round grip and mag. So I've not tried those yet. My brother's got one. So I will give that a shot, but until I test that, this is about as big as I'm going to go on a 9. But I think you got a great compromise here between recoil and all that stuff, and you still got a pretty shootable package. So this gun, I carry it around with a flush fit mag, so you get 12 in the mag, 1 in the pipe for 13. I don't feel undergunned with 13 rounds of 9mm. And so I think it's just sort of the perfect gun for me if I want to carry a 9. So this gun is actually built off of one of Sig's fire control units. So this platform, like their others, is meant to be modular. So I bought one of their custom shop fire control units, and I built this out the way I wanted it. So this is a Gray Guns laser cut grip, and this is in the Sig XL length. So the flush fit mag is 12 rounds. It's not the little baby grip, but it's not the bigger 17 round macro style grip. So it's got a Gray Guns grip, and this is a ghost slide. In one of their slide cut patterns in gray. I think it looks really cool. I dig the slide cuts. Now, after shooting this thing a whole lot, one of the things that I found is that I wish the front cocking serrations and this cutout for the cocking and malfunction manipulation, I wish it was a little more aggressive. Unfortunately, I've had some issues with this gun here recently. I've got, several thousand rounds on this gun. I shoot it a good bit, and I think I've worn out an extractor spring or an extractor. I've heard from friends of mine that have these guns and shoot them extensively that they've had issues after 2,000 rounds and need to replace extractor springs. I don't religiously keep up with round counts in my gun, but I've definitely got several thousand on this gun. Probably not 5,000, but more than 3. And I've been having extraction issues, and I actually shot this in a match here recently and had severe extraction problems almost every stage. So this thing is sort of retired right now till I get that addressed. I won't be carrying it because it's not reliable. But in doing those manipulations here recently, I have wished that these cocking serrations were a little bit more aggressive. I end up coming off this optic a little more than I do the actual cocking serrations themselves. But so this is a Ghost slide. In it, I've got a Parker Mountain Machine threaded barrel with their compensator on it. I love the compensator. It makes this gun significantly more shootable. There's certainly pros and cons to having a comp on it. A lot of guys that are doing concealed carry, like close retention type shooting, you will usually recommend against a comp, because if you're shooting in sort of close proximity or close retention, you're getting the blast from the comp up in your face, and frag and spalding from the guns and stuff like that. I've never had that issue. I don't do a lot of close retention shooting with this thing, but from a shootability standpoint, the comp makes this gun way better. I have compared this, and the comps are super popular right now. Almost every gun is coming out with a cut compensator. That Bodyguard 2's got it. The Shield's got it. The CZ just came out with one. So everybody's kind of putting out guns with comps on them now. But it does, in this tiny package, it makes this gun shoot way better. So I've compared this gun directly to a regular Shield and the Shield comp with their little cut chunk port comp thing on it, and this gun recoils way less with this Parker Mountain Machine setup than those guns with sort of the factory, and then certainly the standard Shield. So the comp does help significantly. Now it's very expensive. I mean, I think I paid $360 plus for the barrel and comp combo, so it's expensive, but it's definitely worth it. You get a lot of extra performance out of it for that money. One thing I don't like about this particular setup is it's just Loctited in, and I've mentioned that in my introduction video, I live in Alabama, and so it gets really hot here, and it stays really hot for a long period of time. And I've taken this gun out to the range for a practice session, shooting several hundred rounds in that practice session. And I've shot this comp loose several times. In USPSA, I shot open for a period of time, and big race gun with a comp on it. I've had that same thing happen with an open gun. But like, I think the Radian and some of these other comp and barrel combos that are particularly popular these days, I think they've got like set screws built into them, or maybe other technology that keeps these from loosening up. Like, you don't have to clock it like this one. You have to use shims and clock it and then Loctite it in, and if you shoot it so hot that it burns off the Loctite, it'll get loose. So I have had that happen, and I think some of those other systems now may be a little bit better than this, particularly the Radian. I've seen a good amount of reviews on that. It seems to be equal performance and maybe a little bit better, at least with the retention of that comp. And then I've got the Holosun 407K red dot on here. This has been on here for a long time. I've not had any issues with this dot. Now, I do plan to upgrade this at some point to an enclosed emitter. I just haven't done it yet. I kind of thought initially that I'd shoot this thing till it died, and it hasn't yet. So it's been a really good dot, particularly for the price point, because I think I paid less than $200 for it. Another thing I've got on order, but I haven't added to this gun yet because the dots never failed. But I've got a place for iron sights, and I've never put them in. When I first had this gun, I had a stock slide on it, and then I switched over to this and never put irons on it. The 417K, 407K has iron sights built in the back, so you only really need a front sight. So I've got a front sight on order, and so that's one of the things that I would do to it that I haven't done to it already, but I haven't needed it yet. And then the last thing here is I have upgraded this trigger. So this is an M-Carbo trigger, and I have their trigger kit in there. It does vastly improve the trigger in this gun. So the trigger is not heavy, but it's very spongy, and anybody that's got a SIG sort of knows what I'm talking about there. It's got a long take up, and there's a lot of sponge in that thing before it goes off. So this trigger definitely helps with that. So you got a little bit of take up, and you've got more of a wall there. There's still some of that sponge, but it's significantly better than the stock. And I think the trigger and the springs for this thing, it's like 80 bucks. So it's well worth it. I did pay $20 to get their striker spring in here too, but I had reliability issues. It would not ignite all primers reliably. I reload a lot of my own ammo, and I use whatever primers I can get, particularly during some of these crazes. You can't get good primers. You have to get Bosnian and Russian and all that stuff. But I had some ignition issues on some of those more hard primers. So I did take that out, but the trigger is significantly improved over a stock trigger. But I will say, like, the shields have way, way better triggers, even with this upgraded trigger. Like, the stock shield trigger is better than this upgraded trigger. So that's one of the gripes, but that's sort of a universal thing with SIGs. Another thing is there's sort of a lot of SIG craze going on right now. This is really the only SIG gun I own, and supposedly those issues aren't happening with the 365, so I really haven't been worried about that. But like I said, this gun, I haven't been carrying it lately because it's been giving me extractions issues, so I may throw up some video of that at a recent match. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot of profanity in there.
Zoom in. Oh no. Get off the X! Get in the street!
can be done.
Okay.
But you know, when it's running good, I mean, it's a good shooting gun. So I'm going to throw the new extractor in there and then test it out, make sure that works. And then we'll take this thing out. I'll shoot a match with it. We'll see how I do. And then I'll take it out to the gun range and I'll shoot the police qual again, see if I can pass the police qual with it and see what kind of score and comparison I get next to that Bodyguard 2. So moving over here to talk about the match in my kit a little bit, I shoot this out of a Vetter holster setup. So this is a Vetter appendix holster. I forget what they call this thing, with the wing. I've had this for a number of years. It's been a great setup. A steel clip, it's been fine. I know some guys that run Vetters that sort of poo-poo on this clip. I've not had any issues with it. You know, like I said, I've carried this gun for a number of years now, shot a ton of matches with it. It's never been an issue. I've got 2 Vetter inside the waistband mag carriers. Again, I don't carry spare mags when I carry a gun. So these are more just for practice and competition type stuff with. Those have been great. And I've got my flush fit 12 round mag here. And then I've got 2 of the Sig 15 rounders. Now, when I got this gun and set it up and bought these mags, that's as big as a mag as they've made. Now Sig has 17 round mags and 21 round mags. And I think you can even put Terran Tactical base extensions on their 17 round mags, and I can't remember if that takes it up to 21 or more. But anyway, there's better mag options out there for this gun now. I haven't bought it because I always carry with a flush fit mag, and these 15 rounders are good enough for when I'm piddling around at a local indoor match. You know, I don't really care. So now you've got a little bit better mag options. I don't even know that they make these 15 rounders anymore. But so that's what I'm carrying as far as the match goes. Now, I really wish I had it out here with me, is the Vetter belt. Actually, I'm going to go get it. I'll be right back. Here is my Vetter leather belt. I have an unhealthy obsession with this belt. So I really like traditional leather belts over these more tactical style concealed carry belts. I've had several of them. You know, I love to try stuff, and you know, I mentioned back in the day I was a lot more of a tactical, if you want to call it that, type guy, and tried a bunch of different stuff. I've got an Aries belt hanging out in there when those are super popular. But I found that I don't like those belts that much. I don't like the way they look. And in a lot of cases, I don't like the way they feel. So I really, really like this sort of traditional leather belt. And this belt is thick, you know, makes me feel like a man when I'm wearing it. And it's, you know, Vetters, so it fits perfectly with this little clip that they have. I mean, that thing locks into place. There's no play. I mean, it just works perfectly for that. So I really, really like this belt, and that's normally how I carry the gun. Now, this belt is I mean, it's thick, but it's not too thick. That Aries belt that I had, it's, you know, nylon webbing, I guess, over like Kydex, or scuba webbing over Kydex, and it's super, super stiff, and I felt like I was wearing like a hula hoop in my pants when I wore it. But this is thick, and so it's a very sturdy gun belt, but I don't feel like it doesn't contour to my body, and it just works perfectly with the holster and mag pouch. So I really like that belt set up with this gun. The one thing about this belt is, again, it's so thick that a lot of these holster clips are like stretched out when they go on this thing. So like that tier 1 concealment, you really got to work to get that thing around, and then it sort of is like stretched just because this thing's so thick. And then I've got a Filster holster for my J-frame revolver, and it also does not like this belt. This is just a little too thick for it. So I've got other belts I wear, but I really like this belt by Vetter with their holster setup, and I really want to get one of these in brown. Anyway, that's the P365 that I carry. We'll get out there and shoot a match with it, get out there on the range and run that police qualifier, and then we'll come back and talk about it in a debrief. So see you guys here in a bit. Hey guys, we're out here on the range today, getting ready to run a couple of pistols through this course of fire and do some kind of like grouping with them, supported from a sandbag. As far as the course of fire goes, what we're doing is going to be shooting the Alabama Peace Officers and Training Commission's qualification course. So what this is a 50-round course of fire that all Alabama law enforcement has to initially qualify on and requalify on annually. So we're going to start out here at the 25-yard line. You're going to draw and shoot 6 rounds, then kneel and shoot 6 rounds with a 35-second par time. You're allowed to have a barricade for that. I don't have a barricade handy out here today, and I wouldn't use it anyway, so I don't have that here. Following that, the next course of fire, you're going to run up, draw and shoot, run up from the 25-yard line to the 15-yard line, draw and shoot 3 rounds. You have 8 seconds to do that. Then you are going to stay at the 15-yard line. You're going to draw and shoot 3 rounds with a 5-second par time. You have to do that 3 separate times. The next course of fire, you would run from the 15-yard line to the 7-yard line and put 2 rounds from the 7. You're going to have 8 seconds to do that. At the 7, you're then going to draw and fire 12 rounds. You've got 25 seconds to do that. And then the last string is going to be from the 5-yard line. You're going to draw and put 6 rounds strong hand only, then move the gun to your weak hand and shoot 6 rounds weak hand only. So each shot is worth 2 points. We're shooting at an FBI Q target there. So if the shot is inside the Q target or breaks the perf, you get the hit. And if it's outside, you get a miss. So each round's worth 2 for a total of 100 points. A passing score is 70. My brother is a police officer here in Alabama, and I've shot this with him before when he was practicing kind of in the academy, and I've shot this clean. It'll probably be pretty easy to do with some of these guns as far as my competition rigs go, but I'm going to shoot some of these little carry guns on it too, and those should be significantly more challenging. But we're going to try to not only shoot this thing, maybe not clean, but pretty clean, but we want to shoot it really fast. So the par times here are real slow. So I'm going to kind of keep up with my score and kind of times, and then I can kind of look at it compared to other guns and look at both the score and the overall time on this thing. So it should be pretty interesting to compare and keep up with, and I think this is a good repeatable standard to kind of check out with some of these guns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. So drop 3, which is a 94. So passing score. Okay, so back out at the range a different day because the last time I came out to shoot some of these guns, my shot timer ran out of batteries, and I really wanted to get par times on some of this stuff because I think that's a better comparison when you start looking at some of these tiny guns, getting them out of pockets and things like that, as opposed to appendix rigs or you know, maybe competition rigs in some cases. So I didn't have times last time. I shot the drills anyway with just no time because I feel like I can beat the times on them, but I did want the times for data. $11.97. I fucked up that. I did 7 shots standing instead of kneeling. $4.77. $2.27. $2.80. $2.64. $3.25. $3.91. $8.33. So the beginning of that was a little squirrely because my red dot was not turned down, or was turned down really low. And it was hard for me to see it at 25 yards. I could see it, but it took me a second to acquire it. It was really light. And I think these two guys down here were from the wind blowing up. Yeah, you can see the grease rings. The wind blowing up, and I shot through the target. So I didn't. Those are up here. So 1, 2, 49. I guess that counts. It breaks the perf. Up. 50 out here off the edge of the target and hit the target behind. So that was a 49 out of 50, if that one counts. I assume it counts because it's a line break. So I think this is a little bit better than what I did last time, because I think I dropped some shots last time running up on the target.
Stand by!
You did, you're right. It's better than last time. Ah, fuck. Thanks, dude.
Stand by! Perfect. Stand by. If they're here before.
Well, it didn't jam.
You don't say. There was some sucking going on, but it didn't jam. 2 and 1.
This is double.
2.
Just call it.
1 out the back. 1 and 1. 2 Charlie. Still Mike. 2 Alpha, 1 Charlie.
All right, guys. Well, what a shit show some of that was. So the run with the 365 was a little rough, at least the match runs. So what was happening there is when I first got this PMM comp, in order for this gun to cycle reliably, it needed hot ammo. And over time, the gun broke in a little bit, and Parker Mountain Machine will tell you on their website that it'll break in over time. So I hand load a lot of my ammo, and you'll hear through some of this probably. I don't do it very well. My buddies make fun of me. I'm not a... I don't like to do maintenance and really spend a lot of time analyzing things and things like that. So I've been hand loading for like 15 years, a little bit longer maybe. And you know, some of the ammo I put out isn't fantastic. And so they'll make fun of me for that. But what I would do is I would load ammo to plus P spec. To run this comp and break this gun in. And, you know, I'm probably not shocking anybody with this. A lot of these compensators, right, they need gas to run and do their job in, you know, dipping the muzzle of the gun down. When the bullet goes through, the gas goes through and you know, kind of mitigates your muzzle rise. So a lot of times you can get more effectiveness out of a compensator by running hotter ammo through it. So I initially loaded ammo that was, roughly plus P, what the NATO plus P ammo would be to break the gun in, and then I continued to run that hot ammo through the gun in order to hopefully get a little more effect out of that compensator. So that was sort of the idea. I've mentioned before that I used to shoot open in USPSA. The concept is similar, shooting an open gun at 2011 with a comp on it. So I sort of brought that line of thought to this gun. And because I shot that plus P ammo at the beginning, I continued to shoot that, and I would load it specifically for this gun. So in those, what I called the jam videos kind of at the beginning, those terrible jams that you see, what is happening there is, I guess maybe the ammo's too hot, but the extractor was skipping over the brass. So the gun was cycling, but the brass was staying in the chamber, and then it was trying to feed another round, and it was causing a double feed, but that extractor kept jumping the brass. And it did it several times, just about once every stage, and you could eventually get it out, but you'd have to dump the mag out, rack, and eventually it would catch and pull it out, and then I would get the gun back in there. So that's what was happening in that first kind of set of matches where the gun kept jamming. So as I mentioned, I think that I bought a new extractor spring, and thought that would fix it, and it didn't. I was still having the same issues. So what I did was I stopped using that plus P ammo I was loading, and started using what would be my normal competition ammo. I shoot 124s. Those of you that know power factor, it's running, 133, 34-ish power factor. So it's not super hot. It's not like cutting the line of being like a bunny fart load. And this gun would run it fine. So it started running it fine, and I thought I had the issue addressed. So then I go into that second match, kind of the later match that's in there. And I was having some issues, as you saw, at least one a stage. But it was not the issue I was having before. So the extractor wasn't jumping the brass anymore. I would rack the gun and it would get right back into the shooting. That would solve the problem. And so I really wasn't sure what was going on. So a couple of my friends are there at that match. They were watching me, and they were like, "Hey, I think you're riding your thumbs up too high, and you're doing it with your thumbs. You're riding the slide with your thumbs, and it's causing the jams." And that didn't really seem right to me initially, because there's been long periods of time where I've run this gun fine and not had any issues like that, but I was having issues sort of prior to the brass jumping issue with this gun. So they mentioned that, I think, after the first stage. It happened again on stage 2, and they're like, two different guys are like, that's what's happening. And if you notice in the video, it happens after the reload on both times. So I'm dumping the mag, putting the new mag in, resetting my grip, and then I'm getting one round off, and then it's jamming. I'm clearing the jam, then it runs fine after that. So it's something about how I'm replacing my hands after that reload, because it happened every time that first shot after the reload. So I was inducing it, and it wasn't the gun. So I do seem to have the issue fixed. This gun will run my competition ammo fine. I did go to the range. It was off camera, and I did some drills, the 5 shots from 5 yards and 5-inch circles and some other stuff, and ran 250 rounds through it, and it ran without a hiccup. Now I didn't do any reloads, but it ran 250 rounds straight, no issues. So I think I have resolved the problem, other than just being cognizant of where my hands go after I reload this gun. So I'll shoot this in another match here soon, and kind of pay attention to that sort of thing, and hopefully that'll address my problems. So that is the deal as far as the jams go. So I do feel like I've addressed the problems. I am carrying this gun again. I'm still favoring the bodyguard a little bit more, just because it's lighter and more convenient to carry, but I am comfortable carrying this again. As far as the APOSTC Qual goes, it went really good. I probably have mentioned it earlier in the video at this point, but I went out to the range. I initially shot the Qual. I didn't have my timer. My timer was dead. So I reshot it on the timer. I had good scores both times. It's certainly easier to hit that target at 25 yards with this gun with a red dot on it. You saw in the zero-in piece that I shot a pretty good group with it, but it was right off to the left of that 1-inch paster, so I do probably need to tweak that sight a little bit. But then I think you'd be dead on. So it's just a lot easier to be precise, and I had good scores with this gun on both of those. So I think maybe had a 48 on the first one, and then a 49 on the second one. So as far as times go, I'm not going to read off of all the par times again, because I did that in the last video. So you can go back and I kind of break it down a little bit more. Maybe I can throw a picture up of the par times and throw the scores on the screen here. But so my total time for the entire course was 39:94, where the total par time is 116 seconds. I did score a 49 out of 50 on this one. I can't remember where I missed the shot. It may have been the running up shot again. I know at least the first time, that's where I was having issues with a couple of different guns, actually, where I was running and ripping off that shot before I got settled after that 10-yard run off or run up. But so 39.94, 49 out of 50, 98 out of 100. Not bad for this gun, but again, this gun to me, it doesn't shoot the same as a full-size gun, but it's not too terribly far off. Again, it's a good compromise between concealability and shootability, and it shot that APOSTC Qual great. So comparatively between this gun and the bodyguard, so my total time here, 39.94, 49 out of 50 hits, where the bodyguard 2 was 44.85, so a little over, nearly 5 seconds slower, and the hits were significantly worse. So not too bad as far as that piece goes. And really that's about it. I mean, the biggest thing with this gun was the malfunctions. I'd have to go in there and see how I placed in that match, and I'll probably have the match scores or throw up the match placement in there. A couple quick editor's notes here. One is about the match. If those targets looked a little bit weird, it's because that was our Halloween match. So we had some specialty targets made up with special engagement rules just to make that match a little bit more fun and interesting. So there was the vampires, which are all hard cover, except you had to hit them in the A zone or the head. There were the white ghost targets, which you had to hit 3 times to neutralize them or whatever. There's a zombie target, which just required 1 shot in the head. And then there's the pumpkin targets, which were just standard targets painted orange that just required the normal 2-shot engagement. So that's why it looked like I was throwing some extra shots on stuff and things like that. It was part of the theme, and something you had to remember as you were navigating those stages was the specialty engagement on those targets. I came in 12th out of 14, I think, on that match. So between some of those malfunctions and shooting from concealment, I didn't do particularly well. But it was a fun match, and I shoot with this gun relatively regularly to try to stay as sharp as I can with it. The other thing is I mentioned while I was working on the extractor issues that I was thinking about getting a backup iron sight for it because I was just strictly running the red dot. I did end up doing that. I put in just a stock Sig P365 front sight on it just so I could have backup irons. I didn't put a rear because this 407K has the rear sight built into it, and they do co-witness down low in the optic. So now I have that as a backup should the optic fail in there. But, you know, again, it wasn't terribly good because I did still have those jams after my reloads and drawing from concealment and reloading from concealment with the tinier gun. You know, it's just not as fast as a full-size gun from a competition rig. So, you know, but not too bad. You know, again, that match, I'm normally a threat to win minor power factor. And, you know, I'd have to go see my placement, but, you know, I wasn't anywhere close to winning with this gun. So you do sacrifice a lot with a tinier gun, and you sacrifice time shooting from concealment. And really the last thing I mentioned in the beginning of the video that, you know, I wanted a brown Vetter belt, and I ended up picking one of those up. So now I got one in each color for this thing. All right, guys, I think that's all I have for this one. You know, do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. You know, this I think will be my second video out besides maybe a quick introductory video. And you know, I'm looking for feedback, what you like, what you don't like. You know, these are kind of longer form videos, and I want to just show, you know, what these guns are capable of in a practical sense. So, you know, competition, right, is how I do it, but that's, you know, what I have easy access to. And so it sort of shows you the capability, because I'm a match director at this match. It's sort of an outlaw match. I can do a little bit more than maybe, you know, if you went to a monthly USPSA match somewhere, like they're not going to let you shoot a bodyguard 380 because it doesn't meet power factor. But, you know, you kind of get to see the capability, and while, you know, you don't always know who's going to show up to the match, and the standings don't always tell you the full story, you know, kind of seeing how I do with them, you know, over time, and, you know, against these qualifiers and everything will kind of give you an idea maybe of what the guns are capable of, and that's sort of the idea behind these videos. So if you like it, I'd love to hear about it. If you don't like it, I'd love to hear about it too. Looking for feedback. I appreciate you taking the time to watch if you made it this far, or if you've watched both of them. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. I got more coming soon. Thanks.